Hey guys, NJ here. So here we have it, the reframed Larva X. Now I did threaten to do this only a few days ago, as I wasn't a particular fan of the frame that it came with, and I felt like there was something about that frame that just wasn't working for me in terms of perhaps how it was messing with the airflow a little, and also in the fact that it was just for me a little bit too porky. It was quite thick, a lot thicker and stiffer than it needed to be, which I felt was detrimental to the performance of what the quadcopter could be. So I did talk about getting hold of the Mo2 splinter frame, and yes, there's a yes and no to can you just get this and chuck it in the and swap all the parts in. The biggest no, which I only found out after I'd already ordered the frame, were that the motors, the motors on the Happy model, if I can actually show the original frame here, so there we have the original frame, and as I said, you can really see how overkill they went with the thickness of this thing. I gave my reasons in the review, but just to recap, something that stiff, it doesn't need to be that stiff for the amount the quad weighs. It's only going to work against it. It's better to keep these things lighter. It just felt like it was drawing a little too much current. It felt like the motors were a little too high in kV. And the whole thing just was drawing too much, and as I said, the stiff of the frame is unnecessarily stiff here. In a crash, all this is going to do is really just transfer that crash energy onto something else, like the motor shafts or further up and brake parts on the quad. And after having a closer inspection, I was actually able to find that after just one or two crashes, you can see it there, look what has happened. This has become warped, and I know these are a pretty tough thicker motor shaft. Really, this shouldn't have happened, but I dare say it was a contributing factor having such a stiff frame. This Mo2 splinter I felt was much better. There is just a little give in there, which is a good thing, and of course it's a fair bit lighter, and also a simple X frame, it just gets out of the way of the airflow. Putting my money where my mouth was, I decided to build into this and then go out and fly it. Now, you've already seen the flight footage, and you can probably tell it flew so much better, much cleaner. I should point out, I'll probably might have flashed it at the beginning of that flight video, the winds when I was flying earlier, it was about 14 mile an hour consistent, gusting up to 18, so there was a little bit of buffeting, but when you're talking about a quad that weighs sub 80 grams, it's not surprising. The buffeting will certainly throw it around a little bit, but it performs so well. So what else have I changed on here? Because of the motor hole pattern, I couldn't use the Happy model ones. You can see here they're a bit of a peculiar tri pattern and an odd size of a tri as well, because you can fit a tri to this frame, but just not this particular size, which is quite close to the center hole. So yeah, Happy model have kind of gone their own way with the motor layout. So as much as I'd have liked to have transferred these, or at least to have tested them, I really couldn't. What I did have lying around was a set of, and these were some prototype at the time. I think you can get them now perhaps, but these were prototypes that were sent to me a while back from Beta FPV. So these are 1105, so a taller, torquier stator, and obviously with that comes a little bit more weight, at 5000 kV, as opposed to these, which are an 1103. You can see they're a shorter motor, same diameter but shorter, and these are 7000 kV. So here's where I stand on this. I find that the power tends to drop off a little bit towards the top end with these smaller 1103 motors, and I tend to find there's a lot wasted there up at the high end. And what I prefer to do, and what I've gone with here, is a torquier, larger stator, or rather taller, so I've got a bit more torque in more of a usable range. I think 5000 is about the top of where I've found that feels good. So these were pretty much ideal, certainly for these 2.5 inch tries. I've yet to try out a 3 inch bi-blade. That is certainly something on the radar. Sadly 3-inch will not fit this frame. I did grab some 3-inch HQ props to try, but the clearance wasn't there, so that's not something I can test yet. But the performance, as I said, and I think it shows from the flight footage, it tracked great, it performed better, there was less prop wash, it was just more confident. I really enjoyed the way this performed. Obviously we lost some frame weight, we gained a little weight with the motors, but these motors with that torque inside that KV just felt great. In terms of fitting this, the canopy was straight on. The flight controller, you've probably already noticed this, I had to actually put that in upside down. I say had to, I had the option to put it in the right way up. But another problem is, sadly, the USB cutout on this splinter was in the wrong place. I think it was designed for an earlier version. So the Crazy Bee F4 version 3, this did not line up. So what I decided to do was flip it up the other way. That meant I could keep the actual ESC flight controller, or the MPU, more importantly the gyros, a little bit lower to the main deck, so that was a good thing. And it also keeps these motor plugs inside the stacker nice and protected. And then there was plenty of room, you can see, for me to put my XM Plus, which you can see how I've routed the antennas for that. So that all went in nicely. I know what you're saying. Obviously that's a bit of a pain in the arse when it comes to plugging in the quad, but once it was all, I mean, it's literally spinning off three plastic nylon bolts here, lift the top up, plug that in, and then once this was all set up, and I put that back down, the PIDs themselves I could just mess around with from the OSD, and obviously changing channel, VTX channel, etc. So it doesn't need to come off again unless I'm going to upgrade to a new version of Betaflight or something like that. So it was no real biggie for me to put it in that way around. I will also mention, if you do decide to do this conversion and you want to put the flight controller in upside down, you will also have the problem of motors 1, 2, 3 as a couple, and 3 and 4 in a couple are now the wrong way round. So you do need to swap those in the resources tab, which is very easy, very quick to do. If you ask for it, I'll put that in the that CLI commands. That you need to put free up the resources, save it, go back in the CLI and put in the remap, which is, yeah, it's super easy to do. So it was no more than sort of half an hour of swapping everything over. Yeah, less than perfect, but we've ended up with something that has, it's vastly improved the performance for me. I really like the way this is sitting and the way it's performing, and it got me thinking, people. So there are still things obviously about this, like, you know, the USB and not being able to fit on 3-inch bi-blades, and various other things about where I'd prefer the camera position, and whether I could have, see, I quite like the idea of having a USB that goes in at the top so you can leave your quad flat and plug it in. I don't see there's any reason why we couldn't, with this being right on the top, shift the camera back. There's a whole bunch of things I started thinking about. So I gave Chris a call over at Halo. As you know, I'm very much in cahoots with Chris, and we've worked together over the years, and you know, we've talked about it in the past, but it's only up until now where I've really thought, you know what, I'd love to have a crack at my own frame design, and working closely with Chris doing that. And it looks like an NJ toothpick might be coming to fruition. So we had a huge chat today on the phone, and we immediately started coming up with some ideas. We've come up with some really cool solutions for a frame design, and it will be around I'm not going to say specific components, but things like, I really do like this flight controller, I really like the Diamond VTX, so those things are going to be heavily influenced in how we're going to design this. We will be doing a custom pod. The frame will obviously be custom. We've got some really cool ideas to throw in there, a lot of improvements on something like this. That will be all nice and up to date. So yeah, you know what, guys, let me know in the comments. If you don't normally comment, speak up. Is this something you're interested in? Do you want me to put my money where my mouth is and get an NJ frame, toothpick frame out there in the wild? You know how fussy I am, you know how specific I am about how a quad has to perform for my style of flying. If you like that and you want to see me put this together with Chris, we've already achieved a lot today just in one kind of on the phone session, spitballing ideas, and we're really keen to move this forward. So get talking, get in the comments, let me know if this is something you're interested in, because if so, we're going to move on this right away, and I think we can actually start prototyping this possibly, I dare say, within the month. So we could have a prototype and the components, bits and bobs that I want, and yeah, this could be happening within the month, and then we could very quickly go to production if this is something you guys are interested in. So yeah, sound off in the comments, let me know what you think. Do you want me to get on with this with Chris and get designing? If so, and I hope you do, I'm going to get my head down and we're going to produce a frame, which I'm honestly really excited about. Anyway, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you guys all soon. Take care. Bye for now.